remember having my legs nailed to a board because when I was, I don't know, about 4 years old, 5 years old, my legs were crooked. And one of the ways that they dealt with straightening out your legs and this was back in the 80s, they would put your feet on in some shoes and nail the shoes onto a board. And as you slept, they were supposed to straighten out your legs somehow. And then when I was in school, I remember being the last at absolutely everything. And it was a small school. There was 80 students out in the country in about 4 hours from any single university that was around. Really not. It's very much a blue-collar town. It's a pulp and paper mill, and it was very, very rural. But we would do these races, and I remember being the last person in the race every time, and it was a real struggle for me. And in academics, I remember being the last person, the person that was left behind. Turns out later on in life, very recently, I found out that I was struggling with ADHD when I was a kid, but that was not a thing that people sort of knew about back then. I was in special ed until I was in grade 5, and then I developed this sort of feeling that I really sucked at a lot of things, and I wasn't all that great compared to a lot of people. When I came into high school, I didn't necessarily have that many friends. Actually, I probably didn't have any friends for a year. I just felt very alone, and I felt like I was very much like behind, and I wasn't very good at anything, and I couldn't make friends or anything like that. I began to sort of think about the rest of the world is so much better than who I am. But I began to believe in myself a little bit more. I remember studying nonstop in night all the time to get into university, and I did, and I actually got into a really good university in an engineering program. I still felt I had this belief in myself that I was behind or I wasn't good enough compared to everybody else around me. I did the exact same thing. I wasn't doing very well in university in the first year, but then I started studying a ridiculous amount. If you talk to any of my friends that are from university in my undergrad program, they'll tell you about that. That's all I did, was study. And then after that, I got into a good master's program and then my PhD, and I became a management professor. And all throughout the process, I've always felt behind, or I can't do things, or I'm problematic in some sort of way. I've become to accept that that's part of who I am as a person. I do struggle with things. Probably you do too. And as I've been doing this project, this reciprocity project, and being more open with it, and being more public with it, I noticed that a lot of people actually resonate with it. I do think that there's lots of people in this world that feel the same way that I do. And so I've come to the conclusion, and maybe you have this conclusion too, absolutely everybody else sucks in this world too. We all have our things. We all have our limitations, whatever that is. And some people are just not open about those things. If I can get us to do one thing, and hopefully we can get one thing done with the Reciprocity Project, to be more open and be okay with who we are, and to realize that our flaws, whatever they are or whatever we think about, they're not flaws, they're not limitations, they're not things that are holding you back. They're just your unique things that make who you are.